What's up, you guys? My name is Preston James, and you're listening to The Reflection, where we do just that for ourselves and our communities so that we may lead a healthier, more positive, and productive lifestyle. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Reflection. Thank you for being patient, hanging in there, and tuning back in. I appreciate it more than I could ever express. So thank you. Sorry, it's been a minute. I have, I have truly been trying to get this done, and I've had my notes. I've had my topics. I have three topics. I have three podcasts planned out for the future, but I could just not get it together. The studio, family life, work, and everything in between has just been crazy with this new year. So thank you for hanging in there and being patient. I am hopefully going to get it popping and started back up after this episode, but we shall see. I am trying to, I know initially I said I'm trying to do 2 episodes a week, and that will happen, but just not every week. It just won't. But for sure, 1 episode a week moving forward. So thank you again for being patient. I truly do appreciate it. Hopefully you got a chance to listen to my previous episode, which was, I don't even know, a couple weeks ago, but Stoicism for Daily Life. I thought that was a really good episode. I say that every single time. I probably won't ever not say it, but Stoicism for Daily Life had some really good tools for your tool belt in there for daily life. And just taking things poco a poco, as the Spanish used to tell me in Spain, step by step, little by little. And I actually have listened to it a few times myself, which is kind of weird listening to my own voice. But anyways, hopefully you got to listen to that. This episode number 11, we're going to talk about leadership, as the title suggests. Leadership. But before I get into leadership, I want to check in with you guys. As always, please reach out to me by email, thereflection.pj@gmail.com, or on YouTube. I have videos on there as well, but at thereflection_PJ. Please check in. Let me know how you guys are doing. I want to see if you guys, how are your goals going? What's something new you're doing? Has your New Year's resolution been as you expected? Is it going as you expected or hoped it would go? What goals have you set? What things are you trying to do or doing differently? Is it working? And a big question is, what risks or chances have you taken lately? Have you done anything extraordinary, out of the ordinary, some sort of risk? Hopefully you have. Hopefully it has brightened your life, your light. Are you keeping positive people in your circle, in your daily life? Are you keeping the negative people out? I hope you are. I want to sidestep, but I want to sidestep for a second. It's very important. I talked to a coworker today about keeping positive people around you. And I know that I'm a very highly social person, and when I have negative people around me, when things are happening and they're just either hating in their own way, and I pick up on things pretty well, I think, right? It's subjective to yourself, but I think I pick up on that pretty well. And I felt a lot of that in the last, couple weeks from just encounters I've had with people, and it's draining, and it bothers me. But like my previous episode, Stoicism suggests, it's out of my control, so I kind of just let it go. I vent about it with Vanessa or a coworker, and I just keep it moving. And yeah, that's it. So if you have the same thing in your life, please just keep it moving, and remember that it is out of your control, except for what you can do to keep yourself away from those people. So my question of the day for you, getting off of that and into the goodness of the episode, is the question of the day for you guys is, how do we know who and what to follow? How do we know? If you're like one of those independent types of people, it's like, I don't follow anybody. Then where and who did you get your jump start from? How did you know how to act? You know that you looked up to comic book characters, movie stars, artists, musicians in the past as a teenager, as a child, as a young adult. You looked up to somebody. It could be a relative. It could be, a family member. It could be a friend. It could be somebody famous. But I wanted you to think about who those people are and what it is specifically that made you look up to them. I just want you to kind of reflect on that, to think about why was it that you chose that person? What was it about them that made you gravitate towards them, their energy, their style, their aura, their kindness, their likeness, their whatever it may be. I'm going to talk about some people, a list of people who lead or who have led by example in my lifetime and just in general. But I want to talk about some of those people here in a few minutes. But I want you to think about the people in your life in your life and throughout your life who have influenced you in a sense of leadership that they've led. Have you led other people as well? Are you a leader? Not everybody is, and that's okay. You don't have to be a leader. It's a lot of pressure, and when it's recognized, it can weigh heavy. So if you're not a leader, that's okay too. But every leader has followed somebody, right? Even if you're a leader, you followed somebody at some point in time in your life, and you may continue to do so, right? I look up to people all the time and try to, just as a podcast suggests, I try to become a better person every day. I don't think about it all the time. I try to, but I'm human and I don't. I have so many things going on in my life that I forget. And I have to take a second, take a breath and say, what am I doing? Be a better person, rise above it, be patient, keep it moving, stay positive, right? You have to remind yourself of this. It's very rare, I feel like, if it's just habitual, right? I know they talk about that in with prayer, with God, with Buddhism, with yoga, with all different types of religion and spiritual types of reflection, I guess, is that you have to remind yourself, whether it's to God or Allah, whoever it is, you have to have that connection and remind yourself to stay positive, to keep pushing, to move forward, to lead if you're a leader. But to be a better person, you have to remind yourself of why it is you're doing what you're doing, or who you look up to, and why it is that you choose to do those things in everyday life. Or the opposite, the other way to look at it is reflect on why maybe you did something that you're not so proud of. That's also a part of it, right? It encompasses every type of thing and feeling and sensation and occurrence that we have in our life. So remind yourself, try to keep that in the forefront of your mind if you can. But what is leadership just in and of itself? It's the ability to inspire, to guide, and to influence others toward achieving a common goal or purpose. The ability to inspire, guide, and influence others toward achieving a common goal or purpose. Right? Another question on top of this is, how do we know who to follow? Have you ever liked somebody? I know this happens in the media. I won't mention names, but maybe there's somebody you've looked up to in the media, and then you find out that they have some sort of scandal going on. And you're like, ugh, I can't believe I like that person. Why was I admiring that person, right? Because they're just people too. We have to remind ourselves of that famous people are people too, just like you and me. But I think we lose sight of that too, because the media kind of blows them up to be this huge kind of godlike figure, more or less. But we have to remind ourselves that they're just people as well. But that's a good question. How do we know who to follow? How do we know who to be inspired by? What types of things do we look for? I think we have to choose what we value in people. We have to choose what we value in people, in ourselves, and our future. That will determine who we look up to. We have to decide if our moral values, our ethical outlook, and spiritual balance and beliefs are where we think they should be. And if they're not, then we have to look elsewhere to help guide us back on that path. If not, the question would be, what do we need to do? Who do we need to look up to? Where does it come from? Where does your inspiration come from? Does it come from a person? Maybe it comes from a book or a TV show or your imagination, possibly. I don't know. right? Anything's possible. There's no limits on this. There's no limit on where this leadership comes from, who you look up to, or where your personal leadership comes from. But we need to find our path, find our direction, and I think it's through this. I preach this stuff because I too am on this journey with you guys. I preach this to help you guys, and in turn it helps me, but we are here to build community, as the intro suggests as well, right? Staying positive, being productive, building community for ourselves and our community, right? Helping make the world a better place. But it starts with us. We can't have like a happy space around us unless we're good. Like everyone around me can't be good unless I'm good, right? Especially my family. I know when I'm off, things are off at the house and it's just kind of a little sideways. And I know how that is. Your energy, like it pushes and pulls the people. Energy is a real measurable thing, right? The earth has energy. Energy is real. It can be measured. But more often than not, finding this path for ourselves, that requires following those who have come before us. We see that and we just put our personal kind of touch on it. We see these people that we've looked up to and we kind of put our own spin and personal touch on it based off of who we are as people. It's very subjective, but that's what we do, right? We look at that and we kind of put our own twist on it. And I want to talk about the people that are some people that I believe are a good place to start. Not the end all be all of the best people that have ever lived, but some of the good people within the last 100 years, last 50 years even, that have done a lot of good things for the world, that have inspired a lot of people, and that have, I believe, a good outlook on humanity. And that's very important to me. I don't know if you guys saw the most recent, today is January 22nd, but the most recent Saturday Night Live, which 22nd, what was that? On the 18th, I believe, Dave Chappelle he was the host, but his monologue at the beginning, his kind of introduction to Saturday Night Live was really, really good. And I saw an article in the Atlantic, the magazine, that just talked about how he basically was preaching to the people to find your humanity and convey your compassion towards people. Humanity and compassion were the two words that I picked up on in this article, and I agree 1,000% over. Our humanity and our compassion for one another. I feel like we lose that, especially with presidential elections and being divided and all these different things, but we are people. We got to find our humanity and be compassionate for one another. It really does matter and makes a difference in the world. It really does, especially at our home and with our loved ones and our family. So I want to remind people of that. I know I'm kind of getting somewhat off course, but Dave Chappelle is definitely somebody I look up to. He's very intelligent. He's hilarious. His comedy is bar none some of the best ever. It's just very well thought out, planned, and delivered. It's just very well done. But okay, so some of the leaders that I thought would be beneficial to the podcast and people that we could look up to or have some insight to what leadership looks like, good leadership, obviously in my opinion, based off the question of what does leadership look like for us and things that we can learn from these people. But I guess a prerequisite to this would be like, what do these people have? And some of these things are, they have a vision, they have goal setting, which we talk about all the time, right? They set goals. They're resilient. They persevere. That's another one, that resiliency I've talked about, that perseverance. They build community. They influence. These are some of the things that these people embody and that we talk about on I almost said daily basis, but a weekly basis on the podcast, right? They have a continuous yearning for learning and growth, We talk about that all the time, but I think that these people really do all those things. They inspire change in themselves and in humanity and people, the world. So the first person I want to start off with in light of his day on Monday, today's Wednesday, but MLK, Martin Luther King, having a dream, motivating and inspiring others, having a clear vision. He was promoting to others that if you have a dream, you fight for that dream and you seek it out. You follow that dream, you follow your heart, you follow that compassion, and you do it. That man was more than inspirational to people, even now. Just very peaceful, and you have the other flip side to it of Malcolm X, who did it in a different way, which in my personal opinion wasn't necessarily a negative thing. But when you've been oppressed for so long, you got to make people listen. So I see where he was coming from. And some of the things that have happened have been awful. So, I don't want to go down that path, but have been awful. So I see both sides, and I really relate to MLK. I love what he did and continues to do, really. It continues to, the shadow's not the word, but light. It continues to light our way and our path to common courtesy and decency for other people. Not just our same race or religion or ethnicity or background or culture, but people. Our dignity, our human dignity. Elon Musk is another person. Not necessarily the biggest fan of the person individually or whatever, but setting goals. That man's setting goals. He had no limits. He has no limits. As you can see, and you can continue to see with that guy, right? Set aside your political beliefs and outlooks or whatever, but just his idea of goal setting, right? He wants to colonize Mars. That's one of the biggest dreams and goals anyone could ever have. That outlook, that perspective is huge, and that is inspiring. And as a type of leadership, that's leadership. That man spent a lot of time in a room for a couple of years, day in and day out, working on something that he believed in, and it paid off, obviously. Richest man in the world, right? But that is dedication. That is having a vision, seeing it through, and setting goals and seeing those goals through. That's as big as it gets. Talking about resilience and perseverance, Nelson Mandela, man spent 27 years in prison and still promoted resilience and forgiveness. And he used that as a tool for leadership. That resilience and forgiveness and being in prison for 27 years. He used that experience, not for bad and bad blood and resentment, but for resilience and forgiveness and leadership. I guess he was in prison for conspiring to overthrow the state. I don't know the details of that. I know my mom had got me a book, his a biography about him. And maybe it's an autobiography. But anyways, I haven't read it yet, and I've wanted to. But definitely somebody I find myself gravitating towards more often than not, and subconsciously too. He's even in my subtext in my emails, that whenever I send an email, I have quotes. I have 4 quotes, and I think he's 2 of them. Yeah. But Nelson Mandela, what an inspiring individual. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. For leading the transition from apartheid. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that name, but regardless, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. One of the biggest accomplishments a human being can be honored with. The Nobel Peace Prize. Another person that I think we can all agree on is Oprah Winfrey, a person who also with resilience and perseverance, right? She had multiple career setbacks, but stayed true to herself and her values and was persistent and resilient. She had long-term success, or has long-term success, because of this vision. This vision and this goal setting, as well as having this resilience and perseverance. Oprah Winfrey, talking to a coworker about that today too. She's inspiring to so many different types of people. Doesn't really matter what your background, race, ethnicity is, or nationality. Like, she is inspiring tenfold to a lot of people. And she continues to do good for a lot of people as well. She has compassion for everybody. She's very inspiring. I remember I think I talked about this before. I would come home every day in 6th grade when I still lived in Kansas before I moved to Denver, and I would watch her show every single day when I got home from school. It's the only time I really kind of stayed locked in on her show and really watched it more or less religiously. But I definitely came home every single day and it was on, so I'd watch it. And we didn't have that many. I don't think we had cable, so we just had like the dial TV where you had to turn the knob physically on the TV. So that was one of the only channels I got. But I watched it. I watched it nonetheless. I watched it. Another person for communication and influence would be Abraham Lincoln. Did I say 100 years? So obviously a couple hundred years. Within the last couple hundred years, he had the ability to converse with both his enemies and his allies, right? Bringing both sides of the table, both sides of the, I don't know what I want to say, both people, both sides to the table and having a conversation. And that's not always easy to do, to be this kind of mediator, but also having the ability to have people see rationally and logically, right? The famous Gettysburg Address is an example of clear, inspiring communication, communicating something to a mass amount of people. He definitely got that. I remember hearing about this in my philosophy class, but he got that from an ancient Greek text. And I believe the person was Thucydides. I think that was the general. It is, I think it's Pericles, I believe, who wrote something about Thucydides, or vice versa, the general, which was in ancient Greece, which I thought was, again, a leader, a very strong leader in not only American history, but the history of the world, but who was also inspired by other leadership and other people from the ancient world. It just never ends. You have to draw from somewhere. You have to take your ideas and thoughts from somewhere. You have to draw from somewhere. And that's what this whole podcast episode is about. Where you get your leadership from. Who do you follow? Why do you follow those people? What do they bring to your life that enlightens and broadens your scope of being a better person in this world, in your life? So I think one of the bigger things that we can take away from Abraham Lincoln is using communication to build bridges. Like I just talked about, bringing people to the table from both sides is, right, from the Civil War, is the North and the South, is just building bridges, having the communication and having the foresight to see that and having that ability to inspire others to be cordial, quote unquote cordial, and figure things out, come to an agreement, which, not saying they always did, but even just having people sit down at the table and talk and converse was an achievement in and of itself. But continuous learning and growth. This, I don't know why I said within the last 100 years or even 200 years of Abraham Lincoln, because we're going to take this back to the Renaissance period, back in ancient. That's not ancient, right? Because ancient would be BC, but definitely 17th century, I believe, or 16th century Italy, which was Leonardo da Vinci. So talking about continuous learning and growth, this man constantly worked on various projects in different areas. His process of trial and error was, bar none, better than a lot of people in history. This man would fail, but yet all that we see are his successes. And the thing I would take away from this is that you have to be persistent. You have to want to grow. You have to want to get better, no matter how much you feel like you're being set back. The more that you continue to pour yourself into something, you will grow. There is no way of telling what's going to happen, but if you don't do it, you won't know. And knowing that you put yourself into it full-heartedly and full-fledged, you put yourself into something and tried and committed, in and of itself is an accomplishment that most people will never do. Most people are too scared to fail. That's a big one. People are so scared to fail, so they don't even try. And one of the things about that, or something about that, is that people won't even talk about it. People will lie and not even admit it. But they know. They definitely know they shoulda, woulda, coulda done something. And don't be that person. Don't be the person that's like shoulda, woulda, coulda. Do the thing that you want to do. Of course, it's going to be scary. The scarier it is, the bigger the reward and bigger off it's going to pay off. Those are the biggest things. That's why people are in certain situations that they can't get out of, but you have to be willing to take that chance, to take that risk, to grow, to fail multiple times and get better and be better. And if you're true to your heart and true to yourself, you can never fail. I think that's another quote I actually have on my email that I was telling you about. It's actually by the Beastie Boys. Be true to yourself and you will never fail. Again, I truly, full-heartedly, and sincerely believe that. Leonardo da Vinci, trial and error, lifelong learning is basically what he promoted. Another person is Barack Obama. Learn from your experiences is what he would preach. Learn from your experiences, including your failures. Coming right tenfold from Leonardo da Vinci. Same idea, same concept. Learn from your experiences, including your failures. Reflection is key, he would say. As the podcast suggests, reflection is key. Reflect on your past actions to improve future decisions. Let me say that again. Reflect on your past actions to improve your future decisions. That's where we become the better person, the person that we want to be. Is we reflect on these past actions and we improve. We get better at it. And it's for making decisions in the future. I always like to go back to using giving a speech as an example, but you learn from each speech, right? You give a speech, you learn from what you should and shouldn't have done, and then you take it to the next speech, and then you do better at that, and then you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done this, right? And you keep chipping away at that. Keep chipping away at that, and you're obviously going to get really good at it, and you probably won't even notice how good you're getting. There's always that 10,000 hour rule you can go by as well that Malcolm Gladwell talked about, that a lot of people talk about. Maybe he got it from somewhere else, but that's where I learned about it. And I know most of you have heard about it, the 10,000 hour rule. If you do and spend 10,000 hours on something, that makes you an expert. I don't know if it necessarily makes you an expert, but you're going to be pretty damn good at it after 10,000 hours. That's with anything. I don't care what it is. 10,000 hour at anything is going to make you pretty damn good at it, right? But Barack Obama really expressed and pushed this out to people, and I'm 100% behind that. As well as building communities and inspiring change, right? His whole thing was his campaign. I don't know if it was first term or second, but he said, change, yes, we can. Some of you remember that. Change, yes, we can. And to piggyback off of that is Mahatma Gandhi. His whole philosophy of nonviolent resistance, right? It shows moral integrity. Moral integrity can help change the world. Again, going back to what I saw on SNL and Atlantic article that I read about having humanity and being compassionate for other people. Dave Chappelle talked about Donald Trump takes office. He's like, it doesn't matter if people voted for you or not, man. I know you watched the show, and I know you're hearing this, but people are counting on you. Whether they like you, whether they voted for you or not, we're all counting on you. And that's the truth. Find your humanity. Be compassionate for other people. Be compassionate. Mahatma Gandhi did a lot of good things for people. He inspired this collective action for people to be less violent. Nonviolent is the answer. Now, I can't full-heartedly say that I agree with that all the time. But for the most part, I feel like that's the first answer. That's the first thing you go to is nonviolence. Now, we all know you push any type of animal in a corner and back them into a corner, any person is going to claw their way out eventually, especially when it comes down to life or death. But for the most part, nonviolence. Nonviolence is what he was sharing, that value, that concept to the world. One of the last people I want to talk about, two more people I really want to talk about, but one of them is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She fought for gender equality and stayed true and authentic to her values. She preached to stick to your values and what you believe. It doesn't mean that you can't come across something that changes your mind about something, right? When we become further educated about an idea, a topic, or someone, then things change, and that's okay too. But as we reflect on ourselves and things that happen to us, we have these values we hold dear to ourselves, right? And we've talked about in previous podcasts where those values come from, but we also can question those. Don't be scared to question those values and be like, why do I believe that? Why do I value this? But when you do and you decide what it is that you value, her whole thing, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is stick to it. Stick to it. Even if you face opposition, even if you face opposition against your values, you need to stick to your values. Don't give them up because somebody pushes you into a corner, backs you up. Stay true to who you are. Again, stay true to who you are. You will never fail. Stick to your values. The last person I want to talk about is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs had relentless focus, but his whole thing was quality and simplicity. That's what made him a quote unquote visionary. Simplicity and quality. If any of you have Apple products, you know that to be true. I remember when it came out, I thought to myself, this is so simple and straight to the point. And that's what we want. If you think about some of the best songs in history that you love, just name a song that you can think of, and I want you to listen to that song and listen to how simple that song is. It is the most simplistic songs that are the best songs. It's some of the simplest things in life that are the best things in life. We all tend to I know I do. What's the word I'm looking for? Overanalyze, overdo things, overcomplicate things. We all do that, right? That's why it's good to take a breath and reflect on things. But we overcomplicate things. And this man sought out, had his vision, had his precision of focus, his relentless focus, and made things simple. A quality product, as we all know, Apple is very good quality, in my opinion. But it's simple. It's very easy to use. Every single product, well, at least most of them anyways, it's just like kind of a plug and play. Tap a button, and it is what it says it is. Oh, it's an app to do this. I click that app. That's just what it is. I remember it was that way when phones first started getting popular. Not necessarily when they came out, but when they started getting more popular. I played on an Apple or a Macintosh computer when I was in third grade playing Oregon Trail. The little floppy disk and the green screen. Man, what a great time. But it was super simple. It was either yes or no to like, oh, sell this food, oh, kill this person off, or this person died. Or it was just very simple. And I'm talking from the front to back, top to bottom of every single thing that they embody at Apple is very simple for the most part. Some of you will probably call me out on that, but yeah, that's my opinion, I guess. But he prioritized authenticity and quality in all you create. That was his whole thing. He would say, prioritize authenticity and quality in all that you create. So be yourself. Do the thing that you want to do. Be authentic to yourself. This is a good place to kind of wrap it up, because he's saying, in my opinion, is draw from all this leadership that I've talked about. Think about all the people that you look up to, these leaders, and even if it's yourself, and pull the things that you like from each person, right? Like we've done since we were kids, from people we idolized and looked up to, and make it your own. Put your twists on it. Make it authentic to you, right? As Abraham Lincoln did with Thucydides from ancient Greece. As all people have done throughout history, learning from other people, learning from great people in history, these leaders, great leadership, and making those things and those pieces our own, making it for ourselves, for the person that we want to be, the person that we want to become. Individualize it, tailor it to yourself, tailor it to who you want to be and who you are. And as always, I want to end with a quote, and I'm going to end with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. One of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln is, most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. I want to give you guys two this evening, but most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. And my final quote for this episode is, you cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. Again, You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. And you know what? Let's just do one more. I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. All 3 quotes from Abraham Lincoln. All right, I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I will be coming out with another podcast episode here in the next 6 days, so please stay tuned. Again, I appreciate you for stopping by, and you are the best. Hope you're having a good day, a good week, a good weekend. Please be safe, stay positive, pursue your goals, have a vision, do the thing that you want to do that makes you happy, and be a better version of yourself each and every day. Love you guys.